Hey, welcome back to LZ23 Strength. I'm Steve. This is where we exert ourselves, we elevate our health, and we evolve in mind and body. And we are going to consider part two, dealing in our series with weight loss. Episode one, or part one of this, dealt with 10 reasons why people find it hard to lose weight. Had a few tips in there, but now in this episode, we're going to expand, particularly when it comes to diet and exercise. And hopefully we'll fill in some of the gaps too with some of the other areas that are challenging for people. So we're going to start with the diet side of things. To make sustainable changes in our lives, they need to be kind of gradual. So we need to examine what we're doing on a daily basis, maybe keep track of it. But fundamentally, we talked about how the science at least reveals that 3,500 calories will burn 1 calorie, or 1 pound rather. You lose 1 pound of weight by burning 3,500 calories. So the idea then is for cutting back 500 calories a day would give you the 3,500 for the week. Now, depending on where you were starting, our starting point, I might consider 600 or 700. But initially, maybe you might try the 500 and see how it works. Again, most of this, we have to realize it's going to take time. It's going to take a great effort and sacrifice. And we probably got to this point where we're at, whether we're 10, 20, 30, 50 or more pounds higher than we want to be. It didn't happen overnight. It perhaps took decades even of eating a certain way to get us to this point. So realize that it's not going to be a quick fix. And the fact that so many people are challenged and struggling in this area kind of tells us that too. So I'm hoping that you will put forth the effort knowing that you can. We can achieve anything that we put our minds to, even in this area of losing weight. So having the calorie deficit is a place to start in our food journey, in our diet journey. And there's many different kinds of diets that are promoted. All are promoted as this is the way, but I think we each have to kind of self-experiment and find out between our age, our level, again, how much we have to lose, our body type. For me personally, I've found that a low-carb diet works best for me. At one point, my A1C was creeping up there pretty badly, and I did a keto diet for 3 months. And I think it's insulting to call it a keto for people who really do keto. I don't know if mine even qualified as a dirty keto, but I did the best I could, and primarily it was just lowering the carbs because I've always been a high carb eater because I'm picky. So I lost almost 30 pounds, and the A1C numbers did drop dramatically. So I've kind of seen through the years that for me, the breads, the pastas, and things like that, I really have to control and limit so that I not only for my weight, but also for my health. And there's a direct correlation. As you're doing this, you might have different goals and reasons. We talked about attitude, what our attitude is towards losing weight. Why are we doing it? Well, aside from wanting to look better, we're going to feel better and our health is going to improve as we make these changes. So as we're working on the calorie deficit, calorie restrictions, whether it's 500 calories a day we're cutting or a little bit more, or even we might even start off before that. It all depends how long you're willing to battle and do this. But a main way to do that is basically by smaller portions. And that kind of goes against the grain here in the United States. You've heard, I mean, I think there's been documentaries on supersizing everything, basically. And not only do we want the biggest possible meal, we want buffets, we want to go for seconds, and all those things are going to put weight on us, and it's going to make it a challenge to lose weight. Now, we've mentioned blue zones before, and maybe you've heard of Okinawa is one of the areas in Japan. I'm not going to try to pronounce the saying that they have, but the idea there is to try to eat until you're 80% full, or only eat 80% of the plate. That's going to take a lot of self-control because we might we might be more used to eating till we're full, till it hurts. So it's going to be a mind shift for us, and it's going to take great effort on our part to do that. Another area is to limit, you've maybe heard this before, don't drink your calories. There's so many sugary drinks that people have on a daily basis, whether it's at Starbucks or sodas or other things. We want to make sure we're careful because there's a lot of sugar, a lot of calories that can come across in drinks. So we don't want to be drinking calories, especially if we're trying to limit, because that's going to cut back on what you're able to eat. In this regard, also think of there's so many sauces, salad dressings that we think are healthy because somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to have a healthy salad." Well, if you look at what's inside of the salad dressings, there's a lot of sugar hidden in there and calories. So we might want to look at more natural ways, whether it's just some olive oil. I'm sure if you look online, there's healthy recipes that you can put together involving extra virgin olive oil, maybe some balsamic vinaigrette or vinegar. I haven't done it yet myself, but I'm looking to do that as well. I'm not. I don't eat an enormous amount of salads, but I want to get into that area just as a healthful, getting more vegetables, more greens. And then I've talked in another video where I'm trying to increase my extra virgin olive oil intake. That would be a great way to do it with salads. So I don't have an exact recipe for you. And again, we're all different. We all like different things. So I encourage you to do that. And even in doing this, it's fascinating. We all want somebody to tell us exactly what to do with everything. I find the more you do yourself, the more research you do yourself, it becomes your own. The more that you decide this is what I'm going to eat or this is how I'm going to work out, it becomes your own and easier to carry on rather than here's a blueprint that somebody tells you and you're trying to follow it, but it might not be what you like. It might not be what feels good for you. So doing research in these areas, I think, is going to be huge for carrying out and eating properly. But as I mentioned earlier, there's keto diet, there's Mediterranean, DASH diet, carnivore, vegan, pescatarian. Find what works for you. I've mentioned this in other videos. Stan Efferding, who's a bodybuilder, powerlifter, health influencer, says the best diet is one that you're going to follow. So to say any of these are better than others, if it's not what's going to fit into your routine, it's not something that you're going to enjoy, something you're going to stick to, that doesn't really matter how good it is or how good it isn't. So kind of gotta, again, find your way. What are you going to stick to that's going to help you and help you on the road to losing weight? When it comes to losing weight and what we eat, protein is a key. I've had another video dealing with how much protein we need, but I didn't focus that much on the weight loss aspect. Protein helps in weight loss in a couple of areas. First of all, it increases satiety or a feeling of fullness. It's going to boost metabolism because the body burns more calories to digest and metabolize protein. Helps preserve muscle mass because that's an area that a lot of people don't think of. If they want to lose a bunch of weight, some of that is going to actually be muscle or lean body mass, and we certainly don't want that in our journey for health span and longevity. So having a proper amount of protein, and then it's going to help regulate appetite hormones. So one key that I've heard over and over and over again that you might want to give attention to is your first meal of the day, whether it's an early breakfast, later in the morning, whatever it is, shooting for 30 to 50 grams of protein, low fat, a little fat in there, no carbs if possible, almost limit the carbs to almost nothing. Have it be focused primarily on protein and maybe a little bit of fat in there. That's going to help you to be filled and full so that if you get to work or you're at work, you're not going to be reaching for any donuts that somebody might bring in, or you might not be tempted by those things, or snacks that are unhealthy or giving you empty calories. So starting the day with a healthy amount of protein, your first meal, that's going to go a long way in the weight loss journey. But just upping the protein in general is going to be huge. So keep that in mind. And then the proper amount, kinds of protein. We talked about lean lean sources, whether it's beef, but things like fish, poultry, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, eggs. All of these things are going to be truly beneficial. And then there's vegetables and fruit. And now fruit for me, I try to stay away somewhat from. There's the ones that I like a lot are sugary. There's benefits there, but the ones that are promoted mostly for health reasons and maybe sugar limitations are berries, whether it's blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. These are touted, especially for their antioxidants, and they're good things that you could mix in maybe with your Greek yogurt. Other things like I love bananas. Now the jury's out; it's great for potassium, but a lot of people still compare the sugar that's in bananas to Snickers bar. That's how high the sugar content. So I haven't investigated a lot, but it's enough to know that if I like the banana the best, it's probably because it's sugary tasting, and want to be careful with any of those. But vegetables, definitely want to get the leafy greens for whether it's kale, broccoli, spinach, asparagus. Those are some excellent ones to get in there. Something I'm going to try to get more of, little cherry tomatoes. There's lycopene and citrulline that are in there. Going back to the fruit, watermelon. These things have great things dealing with something called nitric oxide. So in trying to lose weight, we're trying to also be healthy. So we're trying to look at whether it's in protein or in fruits and vegetables. We're looking for healthy things that are going to keep us healthy, because I might have briefly mentioned it in the part 1 series, but I'm going to reiterate it or emphasize it if I didn't. And this was a quote I saw from an article. It says, whatever diet path you take, it will probably end. So whatever organized diet that we try to get part of, at some point, we're probably not going to stick with that for the rest of our lives, most likely, because it's a roller coaster for everybody. But there will never be a time when you're done eating healthy. So that's something that we want to keep in mind. Whatever the diet that we have morphs into, we're still trying to be healthy. So that's what we want to keep in mind as we move forward, and any changes that we make. Like I said, in my case, it's low carb. That's what works for me. So you want to experiment and see what works for you. Now getting to the workout part. Again, these are things that I've experimented with, things that I've learned, things that I've studied. This is my viewpoint. I'm not a doctor, not a nutritionist, not a scientist, not a coach, but these are things that I feel work for me, and I think you might want to consider it. I feel at the absolute minimum, you want to walk 8,000 steps a day. At the very minimum, start there. And it's going to take, I've got a whole video on let walking be your superpower. So there's ways to do it. One way that can get you started is go for a 10-minute or so walk after every meal. And that's going to be good for your glucose control and management as well. But 8,000 steps a day. The goal eventually will be 10,000. If we can get it up to 12, would be phenomenal, and 15 would be a moonshot. So those are things you definitely want to have part of your routine for losing weight. I also feel strongly about weightlifting and strength training. 3 times a week to start, especially if you're new, half hour to 45 minutes, 3 times a week. The goal, as you get used to it and build on it, will be to be 4 or 5 times a week. And we're looking at roughly 45 minutes to an hour. So again, these are going to be, it's a sacrifice. It's going to be a way of life change. And in these workouts, we're talking the whole body. A lot of times, guys, chest and arms is easy for guys to do, but we want a whole body workout. We want the shoulders, we want the back, we want to incorporate ab work, and legs, especially legs. It's not real popular, but you want to get the legs in there a couple times a week and hit them hard. So, along with that, I would like you to get, at the beginning, at least one high intensity exercise routine. This is totally separate from the weight workout, totally separate from the walking, and doing it at least once a week or twice a week. There's something called the Norwegian 4x4. You can look that up. I have a video where I struggled to do that, and I'm still working on it. You can look that up. But a high intensity workout, you could be doing burpees. It could be on a bicycle. It's recommended on an assault bike if they have one at your gym. It could be rowing. I have rowing machines. It could be sprinting. But a high intensity, which that's not a super long. Generally, you could probably incorporate it initially 15 to 20 minutes to a half an hour twice a week. So you got your walking, you've got your strength training, you've got high intensity, and then just moving all day long. Especially if you have an office job, you want to get up once an hour at least, take a quick little walk, maybe do 10 squats. You want to be moving all day long. There's other things you can do. I just had a weighted vest video. Incorporate that in your walks or in different ways. Go for a bike ride. Get outside and move. Hike. Maybe play some tennis or some pickleball. You want to be movement oriented on a daily basis. And this sounds like a lot, but I want it to become part of your life if we're going to lose the weight and then maintain that. This is going to be a way of life change for us. So set goals in these areas. Be patient. You're going to have setbacks. Don't let it get you down. We're all different and we're all going to respond differently. But cutting back 500 calories a day, maybe up to 700, and doing the movement, the workouts all together, it can get you there. So I hope this inspires you a little. It's going to take some experimentation, sacrifice, great effort, but you can do it. You're worth it. We are worth it. So we want to incorporate these things in our lives. So we've talked about 10 reasons why people don't lose weight. We've added some tips to them. Today we've talked primarily about our nutrition and workouts. I want you to incorporate them. Let's say you've reached your goal now. You've lost 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds. Now what? Well, it's important to realize that many people gain it back. So how are you going to be the one that's unique that doesn't gain it back? What are you going to do now? Well, you're going to watch part 3 of this video, and we're going to talk about that. What strategies are necessary, what mindset, what goals are necessary to do that. So I invite you back to watch part 3. Remember to exert yourself, elevate your health, evolve in mind and body. Smash the like button, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.